Hello, everyone. Happy Wellness Wednesday. So good to see you all. And I'm super excited because I have my baby brother with me, Henry Fields.
Hello.
Some of you know Henry. He's been on a couple of times, a couple of Wellness Wednesdays with me. You were my first guest when I kicked off Wellness Wednesday. You were my very first guest. And then we did a special Christmas Wellness Wednesday where we did a song and we got mom in there too to sing with us, which was a very nice surprise. So, how are you doing?
That was fun. I'm doing good. Thank you. Hanging in Portland. Everything's going well.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about yourself in a second, but just to say hello to a few people in the chat. And as people are coming in, hello, MK Karen. Glad you were able to make the live tonight. And Spirit Beyond the Stars, hello. Hello to Constance and Flowing. And Melody, good to see you here. And I'm so happy that your reading was good. So happy to hear that. Thank you for sharing. And there's Miss Lisa, Spirit Intuitive Tarot. Hello, hello, welcome. So everyone, don't forget to hit that thumbs up while you're coming in. And for tonight, Henry and I thought that we will just kind of have an open discussion about spirituality. So if any questions that you want to know, any questions that you come up about spirituality in general, or maybe your own spirituality, we'll work with that and I'll answer questions as we talk here. But first, hey, Kevin, the healing medium, good to see you. Hello, hello. Just for those of you that don't know, I mean, my brother, I got to tell you, I just love him to pieces, but we always didn't have a true love.
Tell it correctly now.
So, yeah, when we were little, I couldn't stand his guts, like literally could not stand his guts because I was the oldest, right? What is it, 3 years between us, age-wise?
Yeah.
I'm 3 years older than you. And so all the attention used to be on moi. Then comes this cute little chunky curly head little baby. And everybody was like, oh, look at him, and I'm over there like, look at him. Don't let me catch him alone. Oh, and that kind of
none the wiser though. Let's play, son. Let's play. I said, tell it correctly now. You weren't into me. I was obsessed with you.
I was like, yeah, go play in that fiery pit over there. Don't get burned. But that all shifted and changed as we got older, beyond our teenage years, because teenage years got worse. Because then we were fighting over, there was only one phone that our mother got us. So we had to split that time, and I hated that. And, just all the kind of teenage stuff. We didn't like the same music at the same time. So that was always annoying. Anything that we did to each other was super annoying. But it was in our early adult life that we bonded. And now I just love him to pieces. Guys, go to him for a lot of spiritual questions because he's just so knowledgeable and so much. And I just love the wealth of information that you're like what's the word? Like an encyclopedia. You know that, right?
Maybe, or I talk a good game. Now that you're in it, I can't just make up the stuff like I used to.
Yeah. Hey, Sharon, good to see you. So go ahead, talk a little bit about yourself.
Well, hang on a second. I have to say, we did have some good times when we were younger, though, because the other day I had the best memory of us because We Are Family came on.
Uh-huh.
And remember we used to just dance by the record player?
Yeah.
Then you taught me some dance moves, and I thought I was like Mr. Cool.
Still trying to teach you some dance moves.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. I can accept the expression my own way now. Yeah, learn how to dance though.
Hi, Paisley. Good to see you. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and then talk about the work that you do. So, yourself first.
Well, I am a musician and a yogi and a spiritual seeker. Um, and I have been fascinated by just metaphysical ideas and concepts probably when I was really young. Maybe I think this really started in earnest at around age 11 or 12. Remember in Sunday school, I was always the annoying kid who was saying, well, what about this? And have you considered this passage? And that might be what it's literally, but the allegory, I believe, is this. And the Sunday school teachers were just like, well, I think that's kind of where it all began. Just wanting to, not so much, at the time, I think it was more debate, but really just more of like, just go deeper and deeper into the stories because they didn't make any sense to me. And I wanted them to make sense. And I think that just started to lead me down different paths pretty much at a young age. That and I have narcolepsy. So when I was younger, I would experience many different types of lucid dreaming and astral projection and having reoccurring dreams, the figures coming in and out. And between wanting to make sense of that and wanting to make sense of scripture when I was younger, I just always had that longing for spiritual wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you actually need to connect with Lisa, Spirit Intuitive Tarot. She has a show that she does on dreams. And I kept telling her, I said that you would be a great guest to be on there because of all the experiences that you have had.
Yeah, I would love some insights of dreams. There's still some dreams that I'm still to this day. I feel like they're initiations and I still don't quite understand them. So yeah, I'd love to be connected with her.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great. Hey, Nancy. Constance wants to know, how did both of you realize you were blessed with the gift of spirituality? I'll let you start with that.
Well, for me, at the time, I didn't consider it a gift. My dreams were actually almost all nightmares or scary experiences. And when I was younger, I didn't really understand what was going on. And then, as far as the spiritual quest, like I said, that started in Sunday school. Dad was really good about indulging me. My father and I have had an ongoing, 40-year spiritual conversation. For me, it just started with really wanting to understand Bible passages and stuff, and that led me to seeking other religions and other points of view because I don't think I was getting this whole story within the fundamentalist paradigm. So I was just more of a seeker. And then I kind of started getting into like the Eastern philosophy and looking at like cults and mind control and hypnosis and all that sort of stuff in high school. And then when I started my first experiment with hallucinogens at a pretty young age too, and that was eye-opening in a way that was life-changing pretty early on. I think I tried I don't know, I would say as early as 8th or 9th grade. I was adding that into the mix and then seeing that some of the states that they were referring to in the perennial wisdoms were actually really about these types of experiences.
And I feel kind of bad because, during this time when you were really evolving and dealing with your spirituality, I wasn't. So I was always looking at him like, oh God, what is he talking about now? What is he experiencing now? What's going on over there? My brother's weird. I used to think that he was weird and that he was doing weird stuff and weird things were happening all around. And I was like, whatever's happening, you keep it in your room. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't know what's going on. So I was very closed during that time. And the shift for me didn't happen until my adult life. And I think it was like around, I want to say 2006, maybe. of when I really kind of started my journey. Like I was being introduced to different things here and there, but I fully wasn't on board until about 2006. And that's when my journey began. And I started opening up to a lot of different things. And also realizing, too, with me, how trauma just kind of shut my whole body down, shut everything down, because I was in this space of survival mode and protection and wasn't trying to feel anything or experience anything for fear. And that's that vulnerability. I wasn't allowing myself to be vulnerable because I was scared something may happen to me. So I was very protective of myself and my energy. And I had this wall like this way above my head. But during that time, I learned how to just start taking down that wall and allowing myself to be vulnerable. And it was great because, unlike my brother, I was able to run to him to be like, hey, this just happened. What do you think this is about? Or, whereas he didn't really have that growing up. So you were literally left to fend for self to find answers for the longest.
Yep, that is true. Was 2006 when you started going to those the one retreats, working that one method? I can't remember what it's called, the five or something. What was it called?
Yes, the 5 changes when I started
Yes,
doing the
exactly.
work.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah, that was like I did this program which helped me to like all you could just do is imagine an onion and taking each layer of that onion, peeling it back until you get to the core. And
Mhm.
this course was like almost a year course that I took. And that's what happened. Like we just started peeling back the layers. And it was amazing because all the therapy that I've done in my life, and not to take away from therapy. I think therapy is a wonderful thing, but I had gotten to a point where it wasn't doing it for me anymore because I was just talking my story, my same story over and over again. So this program helped me to change that story and help me to go deeper and look at what was holding me back. Why wasn't I allowing myself to be vulnerable? Why wasn't I allowing myself to open up to more things? And that's kind of how things progressed from there. So it was a fantastic.
I remember that time period, and that's why I remember the name of that program, because that's when you and I really started to talk.
Right.
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
we'd be out to lunch, and all of a sudden, it'd be like
Yeah.
dropping in instead of like the chatter that we would normally do, like telling the same old jokes and kind of reliving little past years to having really deep and long conversations. So that's why I remember that time period.
Yeah. No, it was great. Honestly, spirituality is what brought us closer together and help us to really see each other. I think too. To see each other of who we are, because we had our own views of who each other were growing up, like that pesky little brother of mine. But I look at things differently. What else do you want to share, or even talk about the work that you do?
Well, I'm doing a couple of different things now. I have a business called Inward Dive, hypnosis and spiritual intuitive counseling. And this was something that I set up to sort of reverse engineer what I consider an awakening process that I went through. And to be fair, I consider sort of awakening and personal crisis to be two sides of the same coin. So I went through a period where I was kind of sinking into a major depression. And on the day that I was trying to decide what I was going to do about that, and I was considering doing Prozac and stuff, although I never really wanted to take pharmaceuticals, I decided to microdose. I was like, oh, microdosing, I forgot about that. Let me try that. And I walked out of my room having made that decision. And the neighbor was like, hey, man, you want some mushrooms? And he gave them to me, like all ground up in capsules. Like, and this was kind of how this period of my life was going to go. And so I started taking those mushrooms, and I wasn't tripping or anything, just kind of put a little pep in my step. It kind of made me feel like, oh, this must be what one of those antidepressants are like, because I'm going back to the gym and the sky feels a little blue. But I started to meditate a lot during that time. And it just started to get very clear downloads and memories start to come to me in a way that was very specific, uh, just starting to suggest a path or a way that I started to follow. And at that time, I was still working in the restaurant business and kind of stuck in a very similar cycle. And during that period, there was a lot about trust and surrender and tapping into this internal guidance system that was coming through to me in the way of a grandmotherly type internal narrative. And just say that I followed that and got fired from that restaurant, which I felt like, I did that with my thoughts in mind because I was going deep into these meditations. And I followed that voice forward. And then I took a course in core shamanism and hypnosis, um, just some other meditation things I was already doing, but I started to take them as courses. And it very much aligned with what was happening to me internally. Now I'm getting this objective confirmation of like, oh, yeah, you're connecting to ancestors. You were kind of stuck in this paradigm, but they're asking you to expand this way. And so now I take people through that process, just really explaining what the ego is, how it manifests in our life, what's the way to get beyond its border and periphery through self-inquiry with shamanism, through relaxation techniques, guided shamanic journeys, hypnosis, all that stuff I do online, and there is no medicine involved. And then I am also a psilocybin facilitator at Sacred Heart Medicine Sanctuary, where I hold space for people that are taking mushrooms in a ceremonial way.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had her name's escaping me right now, on earlier this year, of the center that you're at.
Nadia.
Nadia, thank you.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
Yeah, we had her on. So I'm posting Henry's website here. So for anyone that wants to check out more of the work that he does, and it's really good. And why don't you talk a little bit about hypnosis too? Because sometimes people aren't really fully aware of, like, oh, I'm not going to have anyone making me cluck like a chicken and
Yeah.
do kinds of crazy things, but it's not about that. So if you want to.
Yeah, it's not. And I guess I'll say that I don't really employ hypnosis too much. It's something I've actually thought about even taking out of the name, but it's already out there and running. When I studied hypnosis, I was actually kind of thinking like, well, this may work if the mind is conditioned. I think it's much more about finding what the conscious brain is rejecting. And the best way to do that is get into the subconscious in the relaxed state. When the body is calm and relaxed and you can occupy the conscious brain with a story, then you're more likely to get into communication with the subconscious. And that's where the change is happening, both as the subconscious communicating with you through the characterizations of your soul yearning, because your subconscious has everything stored. So you are either trying to plant something in the subconscious that the subconscious can flower at a later time. And that's what affirmation is, and visualizing and that sort of thing. Or more, what I do is the subconscious can also tell you the story of the sort of maze that you're within. Because what we're experiencing in an objective reality is our deepest held beliefs. And that's often what we're not aware of, is what we actually really believe about ourselves. So when we get into a deep, relaxed state, and my gift is the questions that I ask people. That's how I tap into my guidance system. I'm not a seer or medium or anything like that. I don't like see into people's visions, but where I connect to source is tell them, ask them this, ask them that, ask them this. This is what's going on for me as I'm keeping them really relaxed. And then they tend to be able to answer questions self to self.
Yeah. No, it's really insightful, and the relaxed state is a state where you're conscious, so you know what's happening, what's being asked of you, and but I think what's really cool is that what comes up for you when you
Hmm.
ask those different questions. And because you're in that relaxed state, it allows you to not really think about it. It's almost like mediumship, actually, now that I'm saying this, because when I'm connecting with a spirit, I am not really thinking about it too much. It's just allowing for whatever's going to come through to come through. So it's like kind of getting out of my way so that that information can come through. And it's similar to what you do, the questions that you ask and the relaxed state that that individual is in, the answers are just going to flow right on out
Hmm.
without them thinking about it.
I would even go so far to say is a lot of times like connecting to spirit is the individual connecting to their higher self in the form of pictures that the subconscious generate that we interpret as spirits, because the subconscious, its language is symbolic, so it works in codes and symbols and pictures, and then the conscious brain is works in the language of the rational mind. So to bridge that gap, I think when the subconscious talks to the conscious brain, it shows it pictures, or there is just a deeper felt sense.
Hmm.
But this is, I think, how the subconscious communicates with us is in the forms of these caricatures.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Shay Kitty says, my past life regression was via hypnosis, very easy and relaxed.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a lot of information that you can get with that. So, um, how, well, let me ask what, because there's a few different things that you do. What is the favorite thing that you enjoy doing the most with people?
Well, I kind of look at them as like one in the same, and they both really work together. Before I actually started working directly with plant medicine, I had already positioned inward dive where I was doing writing intention statements with people that were going to do ayahuasca for the first time. And I was prepping them with breath work and teaching them how to keep their nervous system relaxed, and also how to, um, set the sail with the intention, but also get into the mindset of just experiencing whatever the medicine is going to show you, and prepping them not to go there in a state of resistance. And then I was also working with integration on the other side of it. So right now, that might even be my favorites. Integration. I'm listed as a integrationist for Sacred Heart on their website, on my website, and on a couple of ketamine clinics as well.
Mhm.
So I like taking the experience and reducing it into action steps, because uh, my experience the first time I did ayahuasca, the medicine gave me such clear, direct things that I was supposed to do when I got back to LA. Like it was all about like, there's time left for you in this music journey. You can do it. And I'll give you like an example. It was like, you're going to go to the Hollywood Bowl and you're going to walk on the stage just so you know that it's possible. You're going to feel like you belong there. And don't worry about how you're going to go in. You're going to go in, and there's going to be a janitor, and the janitor's going to let you in and all this sort of stuff. It was so specific. And then I came
Wow.
home and I just didn't do any of it. I just went right back to waiting tables. Just, I don't know if it wasn't because I wasn't ready for it or whatever, but I didn't do any of the things that the medicine told me to do. And then this time around, when I was using microdosing for depression, and the same sort of similar requests of spirit started to happen, I actually followed through. And then my entire life changed like 180. So when I'm working with people, I think integration might be one of my favorite things, because it's like, I want pen to paper action steps. What did the medicine tell you that you can actually,
Yeah.
because that's really where the magic happens.
And that integration is so important because I remember in the beginning when I started doing ceremonies that you have like this crazy experience, right? Or crazy, not so crazy for some, but in my case, I had like these pretty profound experiences. And then I had to go back to my life. And I was just kind of like, I don't, this is so weird. And it's like apples and oranges and trying to make them fit together to create this beautiful fruit dish. So it came later for me to learning about that integration and actually working with the people that can really share that process with me and talk about it because who I was with didn't really go over too much with integration and how to make that work. So it's a really key and important step, and I'm glad that you do that for people.
Yeah, I enjoy that. And then I really do enjoy working in medicine space directly and seeing the more visceral and palpable experience of change, as it's happening in real time. And I would say that, like, I've noticed some consistent story arcs when I'm working with people in the medicine, and I find them all to be pretty beautiful. And one is when someone really connects with their inner child and really to see how hard they've been on themselves and how that the option to play and to be creative and to have a sense of wonderment about the world kind of like comes over them. That's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing to witness, and I witness it often in the medicine space. And then the other is when people sort of dissolve, and that's generally like a trying experience in the beginning because they come up against this sort of length, width, and breadth of their ego in the structure, and then realize that if they let go, they're going to experience the connection of the other side of that, the interconnection to all things. And so that's usually uh, something that's a struggle, that all of a sudden there's this catharsis and peace. So that happens quite a bit. And I really enjoy witnessing that. And then the one I think that I attribute to healing the most is the field and presence of gratitude, like a frequency.
Mm, yeah.
People are expecting a dark journey or carrying this, carrying that, and instead of like I'm changing this and this and this, the medicine is just saying you already have this, and then those people have like really profound shifts when they leave.
Yeah, no, gratitude is definitely a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's something that I'm consistently sharing with others that in order to be able to receive and accept abundance in your life, you got to be content and happy with what you have right now in the present moment. So always being in that place of gratitude, waking up every morning. If you're not writing it down, at least stating three things that you're grateful for the day. That just helps to set the tone as well for the day. And it's magic. I love it. Welcome to everyone who's just tuning in. I see Seascape, Jane the Seeker, hello, Deanne, DFL Rocks, welcome, welcome. Linda, hello, and Ron, Big Bro. Let's see, Deanne said, so many faiths and beliefs have prophecies, spirituality under one God. Do all prophecies have the same outcome without one being more dominant than the other?
So we face and beliefs have promises. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know much about prophecy.
Well, I mean, prophecies, I think, under the sense of just, Deanne, if you can clarify what you mean by prophecies. Well, okay, I guess the Christian faith would be right if you don't that there's heaven and hell. So like if you don't believe in God, if you don't have this belief, then you're going to go to hell. Um, Let me know if I'm on the right thing what she said here. I believe God gave man many faiths because she knew man wouldn't believe in just one. I mean, I feel personally that there is one outcome. I feel that between all these religions and different spirituality of different things that people believe, a lot of it's the same. It's just people are speaking differently about it or they look at it differently. But everyone wants to be right, right, about what they believe in and what they feel. So um, I mean, honest to God, I wish that this was something that I could do in my life where I can go back and study religion in school, because it's so fascinating to me to see and like the origins of it, of where it's come from, and why people believe the things that they do. And then, of course, we have how the government has gotten intertwined in all of this, right? And utilize it to their benefit as well. So, um, like I said, I think it's just everybody speaking a different language, but it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I, I'd like to add to that. I think that there's what's known as a esoteric and exoteric interpretation of scripture in the perennial wisdoms. The esoteric is what is the hidden meaning of these verses, and they almost always represent the internal experience is what's being discussed. So um, you have, for example, Christianity, Gnosticism, Judaism, the Kabbalah, Islam, Sufism. One is the study of the verse in order to make the law, and the law is just the customs and the mores that you're supposed to follow in society. And so that's how you take the scripture and then you ossify it into the ego, because it's like, what form are we taking out of it? And then that's what we offer as religion, right? Religion
Mhm.
is really the customs, the interpretation of the scriptures specifically for the do's and the don'ts, what's right and wrong, so that we can have it be a system that we follow. And that's the rote interpretation of these scriptures. And then the esoteric is always about the inner divinity and how we get into a state of gnosis, which is the individuated experience of this source that is ineffable. It can't be defined. You can only have experience of it. And that is the difference.
Okay. Yeah, she was referring, this is a example that she gave. Different Native American tribes have different prophecies. The Sioux tribes see signs. The, excuse my mispronunciation here, Owibwe, I know I butchered that, tribe see signs, although their prophecies are different.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
Yeah. Not sure on the prophecies part, Deanne, but the explanation of like the spirituality, religion aspect of things, that we just talked about. So I hope that's helpful for you, give you a little understanding on that. And please, if any other questions come up, please feel free to share questions, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up while you're here, because that's helpful. And also leave us a comment. Like Henry, I would love to drag you on here once a month, maybe even do spiritual talk and just having like an open discussion about spirituality and anything that comes up for people. Um, oh, and while I'm on it, as we were talking about, the experiences, as you know, he's a psilocybin facilitator. I am planning a retreat in October. I'm still working out the details and I haven't released it yet, but at least I can give you all the dates. It will be October 6th through the 10th. That's a Thursday through a Monday, and it will be down in Mexico. So it's going to be really great. We're going to do two ceremonies, and there's going to be Reiki, some Reiki healing that we'll be doing as well, and readings. So it's definitely going to be a profound weekend. So anyone that's interested in that, for more details, as soon as I release them, I will send that to you. You can either sign up on my website, soniarainlee.com, for the newsletter to get more information, or you can just shoot me an email, which is soniarainlee@gmail.com, for more information. So, yes, I'm sure they do too, Deanne, that traditional African tribes have prophecies as well. And there would be a difference between the different tribes as well, because they have different practices and different belief systems. So yes, a lot of the same too. But ultimately, I just really feel that despite, and I feel this worldwide because I feel that it's all plugged into one source. We're all plugged into a source. Like I said, it's just that people have different ways of interpreting, different ways. Some will say God, the universe, source, whatever that is just we all have something different for it. The beliefs may be a little different, but ultimately, I feel like a lot of it is the same. So that's just my own personal beliefs on that. Okay. Any other questions? When did you really start to dig deep with your I know you talked a little bit about when you started on your journey, but what do you think helped you to go even deeper or wanting to go even deeper with it?
Um, well, yeah. So I had when I was very curious in like eighth and ninth grade and that sort of stuff, and I had big experiences, particularly with the Grateful Dead and LSD, that really got me to have that experience of, um, you know, just very expanded states of awareness that always set the template for me. And then I would say at around 32 is when I first started to try to quit drinking and went into the 12-step community. And it was a very specific time period where I was like, I just never knew what they were talking about in the 12-step rooms. It always just felt like, when you get to the grass, Daniel Hopper, it will be on the top of the mountain. That's what, like, it's just like one platitude and truism after the other. And I never really quite got it. And then I started to go to yoga at the Hollywood YMCA, which was life changing for me, in a really great community. And I started to go to Agape, to Michael Beckwith's church.
Mhm.
And then I read A New Earth, Awakening Life's Purpose by Eckhart Tolle, which I always give to my people that I'm working with. And it was his description of the ego that made me think, oh, alcoholism, the ism is just the ego. That's what they're talking about. And that's what my yoga teacher is talking about. And that's what Michael Beckwith is talking about. And I was just like, oh, dummy, you had to hear it like over and over again. And all of a sudden it just went ding, 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 like they're all talking about the same thing. And like that book really helped me understand it. And then it was just kind of like this new, it was like opening a door of like me being able to witness myself and how the ego was running my life. But because I was being run by the ego and I didn't have that awareness in order to observe it, I started to cultivate through yoga and meditation. But the linear understanding of what it was, that book explained it to me. And then the communities that I was dabbling in all of a sudden all started to make the same sense, that they were talking about the same thing. So I would say that was another pivotal time for me.
Okay. Yeah. I think for me, which was, and it's always interesting how people will have different awakenings, right? and
Mhm.
and I feel that awakening is not like a one and done kind of thing. We're always having different awakenings at different points in our life. And so the pivotal point for me was my divorce. So I feel like after my divorce that I had to make some major changes in my life. And to allow myself to create this shift and not get swept up into all the sadness and the upset about divorce, I removed myself from that and allowed myself to be up here. So basically, I didn't allow myself to be a part of my story, right? Because when we get caught up in these stories, we lose ourselves. And I wasn't going to allow myself. And it was one of my teachers, one of my mentors, that said to me when I was upset and called her up, and she said, "It's okay for you to be upset. Just don't allow yourself to be a victim." And that really kind of hit that spot, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of do feel like I'm being a victim here. And so when I elevated myself and elevated and created a new story for myself, that's when things began to unfold and shift and move and started creating magic. Things started opening up spiritually for me. So it's important for us to, when we have these awakenings, to allow ourselves to be in a good space to receive what's being given. Like at that point for you, you had to hear it from several different sources, but yet you still had this aha moment, like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. So that was a really good awakening for you. Um, Wanted to see something here. I like, yeah, Deanne said, yes, one source we all connect to. I love my source and I love yours too. Yes, absolutely. And ism, inner spirit maladjusted.
Yeah, I like that.
Hmm. And Marcia says, I think we need to talk and hear more about spirituality. It helps us to understand one another in a unique way. Absolutely. I don't like it when you share with someone that you're spiritual and all these preconceived notions of what that means. Immediately a lot of people like to think that you're doing something evil or that's not right or you shouldn't. And it's like, no, it's just that for me, I will explain and I'll let Henry explain what spirituality means for him. But for me, we both grew up in a Christian household, really strict one at that, even though we were always consistently looking for ways to bend the rules. But I was more interested in learning about. I got to that point. Henry did that from an early age. He asked questions really early. I was later in life, and later in life, I kept asking, how can all these different people be wrong with what they're experiencing and what they see? I mean, we're talking about religions and belief systems that go way, way back. So even those that were on this land, a lot of these tribes, right? Who said that what they do is evil? And so I started thinking more along those lines, and I started opening myself up to learn about other religions and see what they're all about. And I said, okay, everybody's just singing a different song. That's all. Everybody's singing a different song. And so I didn't want to, because so much of my life I was pinned in this box to believe only one thing. I didn't want to be in that box anymore, nor would I let someone put me back into a box. I'm very open to learning and discovering, and it's beautiful to me. And so that's kind of how I open myself up and what spirituality is for me. What would you say it is for you?
Well, for me, it's about direct experience and then the meaning that I ascribe to that direct experience, and if it has any, like if it makes my life better and I feel better. For
Mhm.
me, I was always like, it doesn't really do any good to learn or to just accept someone else's experience as the truth.
Mhm.
I have to have the experience or know from my inner perspective, and I've always been driven that way. And one cool thing about dad was like, I think a little bit more uh, loose in his interpretation, because he would always say to me like, well, whatever you pick, as long as it works for you, and that means like really like as long as you can get the stuff you need through the paradigm, then it's like he's like then it works. So it kind of made me have a more of a like an experimental mind frame about it.
Mhm.
So for me, I think my version of spirituality is, can the internal and the objective reality, are they in relationship, right? If I'm just saying some things in my head that's fantasy that never pans out in objective reality, then it's not in the continuum. And also at the same time, if I'm ignoring objective reality and never considering the circumstances, then they're not in relationship. So I want to be in alignment. And the alignment is I want to be in tune with how source or my subconscious is trying to guide me. And then
Mhm.
I want sort of objective proof of that and the synchronicities that occur to me in my outside life. So it's like an alchemy, a give and a take, you know.
Mhm.
And then being mindful of the ego that's going to want to condition me to habits or to just
Mm.
kind of staying the same, because ultimately the nature of reality is that it's constantly in flux. And so I think probably the most difficult part about walking the spiritual path is that you're always going to be
You're always going to be what?
moving.
Moving, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like you said, like an awakening doesn't mean it's over.
Mhm.
It's just that you're unwinding into something else that's going to unwind into something else and unwind into something else.
Yeah. As I always say, we're always a work in progress.
Mhm.
Deanne says, I believe there is spirit everywhere in everything, including alcohol. And someone mentioned that's why they call it spirits.
It's definitely an alcohol.
Yeah. Let's see. She says, my grandfather and father were ministers. I was sent to private Christian schools. None of it helped me connect to God. Crying alone in the wilderness did. Wow. Yeah, that's deep. I have to say, I mean, I did have some moments in the church where I had this connection, because there were a couple times where I got super religious in my life. And I like to think I've been on each spectrum, right? I was over here where I was like really religious. And then I was over here where I was just like not having any connection to religion at all. And I like to say that I'm like happily in the middle now at this point, at this stage in my life. And I feel that I found a space that feels good to me. I don't identify it as religion, as we already discussed, and talk about it as spirituality, being spiritual, but it's a good place to be. But I do remember there were times um, in the church, and this was during the time when we went to more of the churches that had gospel music, because of, and that's the thing that I love, that I find always so entertaining, that when you go to a predominantly, basically a Black church, and they have gospel music, the spirit that moves through there is so powerful and so intense. But they call it the Holy Spirit, which basically it's spirits, but you can't come and say, oh yeah, I saw the spirits and this and that, because then it's like looking at you like, it's like, but you felt it.
Mhm.
You felt it, I saw it, what's the difference? But anyhow, my point is that during those moments, that's when I can really connect. As we all know, music is very healing, music is very powerful, and I've had these magnificent experiences with the music, and connecting as well. It's just so, I don't know, it gets into my bones. It feels good. I love it. And you experience it that as well, of being a musician and the music that you play. You have spiritual experiences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just remembered that was, when we went to Enon, it was a long service and I didn't really care for much of that, but the music was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think from a pretty young age too, one of the things that I was thinking was, okay, you have all these Black people in the church, and then they're saying that they're worshiping Jesus instead of Christianity, because that's the conditioned and colonized mind. But then as soon as some drums start, it's back to voodoo. Like, and you know, Sister Jones is falling in the aisle, and you're saying that's Jesus. Okay, like, so it doesn't matter what it is,
Like
but
I said, we all call it different things,
yeah,
but yes.
but I think it's like there are certain things that travel in the bloodline that manifest organically when the conditions are right, and music is a big part of that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Paisley's asking, what term besides spirituality conveys the concept? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, I think that often culturally people try to get around it. Like right now, the word is flow, right? Everyone's talking about flow. And what is flow? Flow is like when you are outside of your ego so that your intuition happens because you're being mindful and you're connected, self development, um, embracing the archetypes, connecting to your intuition. I think they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah. Again, different words, different terms, but it all kind of stays the same. Yeah, Sheila says music feeds the soul. It most certainly does. Um, and I love this. Yeah, Jesus came to me because of what I felt in my heart, and sensed with his presence, magic happened. I got that without reading a book, and that's the beauty. It's like you don't have to go to church every week. And I know some people, there's like someone Christian listen probably be like, what did she just say? Um, Churches and the Bible, these are all things that help to support whatever your belief is, what feels good to you. It's like for me, for my spiritual work, and for Henry, the work that he does, we have different spiritual communities that we belong to, that we go to. This is where we do the ceremonies that we do. And that for me is that helps to feed my soul. So it's the same thing. It's like how music feeds the soul, church feeds the soul for some people, the Bible feeds the soul for some different people. Again, it's whatever feels right for you that helps to keep you aligned with what you want to experience. That is whatever your jam is, basically, in a nutshell, whatever feels good to you. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She was like, I'm gonna say amen to that. You don't need to go every week. No. But some people are conditioned and feel that they have to. And that's fine. If that's what's right, if that works for you, then that's good. What I don't like is when you're trying to like it becomes a task, and it becomes like a thing, like you feel like, oh, I have to. That's not fun. Who wants that? Right, Ree?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. We got about 5 minutes left here.
You
Uh-huh.
it's ironic. It's like the funny thing is like the example that Jesus set and the wisdom that Jesus was saying, and then the customs of Christianity, because he always says that the temple is inside; it's not in the building. And he was also upset that the money changers had set up their place of business in the building, which is still a big prevalent part of the mega churches and the Catholic tradition and that sort of thing. And in so many different ways, he said, go into the woods to seek me, just like the woman said, like crying out in the wilderness. That's where you'll find me, inside, connected inside, not in the building. And it's just like, you read it every Sunday and be like, okay, so we got to go to church, right? It's
Yeah.
just like the message of the man himself is like often
I don't
obscured.
think a lot of people really realize the importance of nature and what it has to offer. And there's so many answers that are there, and that's why it's really good for us to go and get ourselves grounded in nature. Hug a tree. Um, I think another reason why people go to the church, because it gives them that focus. I think people feel like outside in the world, they're so busy with their everyday lives that they're so caught up in all of that, they don't take the time to go inward. Whereas if they go to church, that's kind of like that space to make them focus, to go inward and do the work, whatever that work is for them. Um, but yeah, you can go just into nature. It's one of the most beautiful places to just Yeah, I've had some really beautiful experiences being outside, especially doing ceremony outdoors. Really profound experiences, and I know you have as well. Um, any other questions anyone might have, or anything else you want to share, Ree?
Um, no, I think we'll see if there's a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, I call him Riri. That's his nickname. Riri! uh, Deanne says, I once asked Dad, what is the true meaning of God? He said, the Bible was designed to control the weak. Wow. Dad just laid it right on out there for you.
And Santa Claus isn't real.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah. That's like one of those moments. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, we're going to go ahead. I'm serious, Henry. I would love to have you come on once a month and we just do spiritual talk. I know we're supposed to get on that other platform, which we haven't done yet, to be able to do our talks. But yes, I have faith in my brothers and sisters. Beautiful, Deanne. So yes, don't forget, we will be doing a retreat coming up in October. So I'm super excited to have that experience with you, Lil Bro, for us to be able to do that together. And I will be on again this Friday morning for Coffee Chat, Oracle readings for the collective, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, as well as Can You Sing It is this Friday. So we're going to have surprises that will be on Spirit Intuitive Tarot's channel at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Be sure to check that out. Thank you, Seascape. Seascape says, I appreciate the conversation, Sonia and Henry. Thank you. Yes, you're so welcome. Thank you, Paisley. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. And be sure to check out Henry's website. Any questions that you may have for him, feel free to reach out to him. He's accessible. I have his other contact information just below the video here. So there's a phone number and email that you can reach out to him. All right, everyone. Blessings.
Bye.
Take care.